What's up, everybody? Welcome in to Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. He's Ryan Talbot, back in Western New York. I am Matt Parrino, inside Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Buffalo Bills improved to 8-2 for the first time since 1993. They win in Indianapolis for the first time since 1998. We got a very good show for you today because there's so much to get into here today, Ryan, in terms of how the Bills pulled off this win today, how they played and what it means, but also how it sets the table for what's to come over the next 5 weeks, where they start the gauntlet of their schedule. We've been talking about this all season long, and now we're finally here, and you have an 8-2 football team ready to chart out on these waters, and it's going to be so interesting to see how they handle these really, really elite teams. We're going to get into all of it. A lot to break down to. I'm really excited to talk about it. We're brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. 'Tis the season to save on groceries and all of your holiday gifts. Christmas bonus is underway at Tops Friendly Markets. Shop at Tops and save $10 at all your other favorite stores and restaurants. With over 25 gift cards to choose from, there's something for everyone on your list. And don't forget to treat yourself to some extra savings too. Save on great gifts like toys and games from GameStop or Toys R Us at Macy's, things for your home from Lowe's, that new big screen TV you want from Best Buy, and so much more just by shopping at Tops. Be Santa's biggest little helper with Christmas bonus from Tops. And Ryan, the Buffalo Bills' biggest helper today was their defense, who forced 4 turnovers in this game, really helped kind of lead them to victory.
Yeah, what an opportunistic, performance by this unit, starting with the first play on defense. Taron Johnson getting a pick six, talking about how, he thought that they were going to react they thought he was going to react a different way on that play, but he came underneath, picked it off, took it to the house for a score. Austin Johnson, all of a sudden, an interception machine after having no interceptions throughout his entire career, high school or college, and then having 2 now in the last 3 weeks. And then some other big plays. I mean, Quentin Jefferson with the turnover on down sack. Greg Rousseau had a great game. Epinesa with another one. They made play after play after play with with their offense being down so many guys today. They stepped up and helped this team move to 8-2, like you said, for the first time since 1993.
Taron Johnson, he's who I'm writing about after the game. You're talking about, after the show, I should say, you're talking about a guy that misses most of the start of the season. The Bills get those first 3 easy wins out of the way to start their year. Then they lose 2 in a row, back-to-back road games against good teams, Baltimore Ravens and Houston Texans. They didn't have Taron Johnson in those games, Ryan. And you start to think, what could have been maybe different in that Houston game if they have Taron Johnson? They get him back the next week against the Jets, and here you go. They run off 5 wins in a row. Their defense now has held teams to 20 points or less in all but the Miami Dolphins game, which obviously that offense getting back to supercharged a little bit, had some nice plays last week. We're going to get into the offensive side of the ball, and there's some we have to dive deep into this defensive line a little bit, because there were some great moments and there were some periods of challenging time where they just weren't able to get enough pressure. And that could become a problem as you kind of go through this next couple of weeks. But when they needed big plays, from Taron Johnson to Quentin Jefferson, who they just went out and signed this week, Greg Rousseau, across the board, Taylor Rapp with a really important interception late in the game, they got plays made on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. All 3 phases. I mean, Terrell Bernard almost had an interception near the end zone on one play. So he's showing, the big play prowess in terms of being at the right spot at the right time. I thought Von Miller had a few nice flashes in this game, but I feel like flashes is the right word to use for the defensive line as a whole, because for every nice play that they make, they left some big plays on the field early on in the first half in terms of against the run, some large lanes for Jonathan Taylor to run through. And then that pass rush just wasn't very impressive early on in the game. It took some time as the game wore on. I thought they were getting more and more push, but overall, this is the same problem that they've had the last few years, is sometimes the quarterbacks that they're going against have a lot of time to scan the field and find guys to get open. When you're going against an older veteran like Joe Flacco, that's not necessarily going to hurt you. Flacco looks like a guy that's nearing the end of his career for good reason. But when you start going against this gauntlet coming up, that could be a big issue for this Bills defense.
And we knew going into the game that the Indianapolis Colts were going to lean on Jonathan Taylor in the first half. Like, if you take out that 59-yard run, we're having a completely different conversation about the way the Colts were able to run against the Bills. But that's been the story going back multiple seasons. And I think you look at that play, and obviously they don't get enough push to the inside. They push him outside a little bit. He breaks through that one hole and takes it 59 yards. DeMar Hamlin's got to make a better angle on that play to have a chance to at least slow him down, to allow Dorian Williams, who's a little bit behind the play, to get over there and maybe finish the tackle. But those are like, that's a one play in this game that if you take that out, we're probably talking about a completely different situation. This is an opportunistic Bills defense that turned the ball over. Listen, they're not going to play Joe Flacco every week. They're going to play a lot of really good offenses down the stretch. But these are the kinds of performances that I think that this unit is capable of. They don't have Dwan Smoot. They don't have Dwayne Carter. You think that you could probably get them back into the mix here over the next month or two. Then you're talking about adding maybe Matt Milano back into the mix as well, as maybe like a part-time player, and then maybe ascending as he goes along. You got to be really excited about what this defense can be in December and January, aside from the periods of time where it seems like the pass rush disappears.
Yeah, you want to get more from that unit, but they also deserve credit for their run defense. And I know part of it was the Colts kind of took Jonathan Taylor out of the game. 5 carries for 7 yards in the third quarter, no carries in the fourth quarter. Obviously, Buffalo's long drive there late in the fourth quarter made the Colts very one-dimensional late. It was pretty much out of hand at that point. But, for whatever reason, Indianapolis decided to lean on the pass, despite it still being a close enough game. But minus that one large run, you're right. This was a performance where overall the run defense was solid. The pass defense, the interceptions were there, the strip sack by Rousseau. There's a lot to be encouraged about, but you just want to see some more consistent push from that front four.
This was a Indianapolis Colts offense without Michael Pittman, without their center Ryan Kelly, and it just felt like even as the Bills offense was making some mistakes early on, some penalties early on, they go for it on fourth down deep in Colts territory. They don't get it. Leaving the Colts in this game, it just didn't feel like there was enough firepower on the Colts offense. And, when the Bills are kind of flying around and making some big plays themselves on defense, that's what kind of shifted things a little bit. I want to go back to Von Miller because I thought he flashed for me and popped for me in a way today. On top of what I thought going back and watching was a pretty solid game last week, he's kind of now settling into what you were hoping him to be. Now, he didn't have a sack today, but he had a play where he kind of flooded down the line on a 3rd and short running play. Was the first point of contact on the run. I think it was Greg Rousseau who came in and got the tackle, and then Quentin Jefferson on the next play ends up with the sack to shut down that drive. That's a big play. There was a couple pressures in this game. Austin Johnson's interception, where I thought Von Miller had the pressure that led to that interception being possible. If you're getting this from him now, and we know, rewind the clock back 2 years. When the Bills played against the Chiefs in the regular season, it was Von Miller who was one of the best players on the field that game. They need that Von Miller now here coming up over the next month, and it feels like he's getting super comfortable. He looks healthy at exactly the right time.
Yeah, it's encouraging to see. And we talked about this earlier this week. A 4-game suspension is never a good thing, truly, but it's kept him fresh. It's kept him now going into this tough matchup of games, starting with the Chiefs. He is going to be kind of ramping back up, and you saw flashes of it in this game and some big plays, beating the tackle on one, getting some pressure on Flacco on another, setting the edge at times and doing a good job there too. Now, when you're going against these tough teams, you want him to be able to take advantage of the fresh legs after missing 4 weeks and following their bye week after this Chiefs game coming up. He'll still be fresh, and you're hoping he'll make some big plays against that gauntlet of teams such as the 49ers and the Lions and the Rams. The Bills are obviously in an advantageous spot in the AFC East right now. but they can't go through a lull where they drop a series of games of these contenders. So they do need Miller and company to step up on defense.
Don't look now, but the Jets playing right now down a bunch, and the Miami Dolphins play tomorrow. Patriots go and knock off the Chicago Bears. Dude, we could be sitting here at the end of this weekend talking about the Bills being up how many 5 games in the division, and the Patriots being the number 2 team in the division. Can you absolutely imagine that?
It's wild to think about. And, the Bears have their own series of problems. That game was pretty ugly in terms of the highlights that I saw and the plays that I saw, but kudos to them. Their defense has been stepping up. May showing some development in his game, and to possibly be in second place after this weekend. And mind you, it's 3 wins. It's a team that's on the build. Says a lot about the Jets and the Dolphins potentially, if that is how it plays out.
All right, let's get to this Bills offense here. Shout out to Rico69 over on YouTube, listening from over the pond in London. How bad did the Kincaid injury look? Otherwise, what a great win, going to bed on a high. So I think I saw a replay of the missed, what would have probably been a touchdown, when Josh Allen kind of hit him, could have hit him on the right side here, and it looked like his left knee kind of like buckled and then hit the turf in an awkward way. He played the next couple of snaps, but then after that play on the sideline in the next series, where it was kind of like an underthrown ball from Josh Allen, he came off, and then it was kind of like a dance that was happening. He went into the medical tent, came out, looked like he was trying to work it out, like he might be able to come back in the game, ends up walking back to the locker room. So you're thinking, okay, he goes to the locker room early. This is a good sign. Comes back out with his helmet on, goes on the sideline, waits a couple plays, comes back in the game, plays 2 plays, and then they shut him down for the day. Talking to him in the locker room after the game, he said he feels good. He's going to get it checked out. It was just something that, popped up. And as, getting used to the brace on there and the feeling, it wasn't 100% for him to want to go out and play on it. So it's definitely something to watch. But man, Dalton Kincaid goes out of the game, Ryan. And on the next play or 2 plays later, there's Dawson Knox going down the left sideline for a 34-yard reception from Josh Allen. Do you know that is the first 30-plus reception for a Bills tight end this season?
It's wild, because I really thought this would be a year where Kincaid would be stretching the field, and it just hasn't happened. Obviously should have had a touchdown. Allen overthrew that pass to him a little bit, but kudos to Dawson Knox getting open down the field, making that play, setting up the Bills for another score there. It was a big play that they needed once you saw that injury to Kincaid. And, like you said in the locker room, he said he feels good. You hope that it's nothing major. If it's nothing, then he can play in this game against the Colts. But if you have any concern, you can always sit him out 1 week. It would be a big loss, but that Knox knows the ins and outs of this offense. He can help in the passing game, and he is certainly a much better blocker than Kincaid. So that could also pay off some dividends against the Chiefs coming up this weekend.
We talked about the depth at receiver, or, some would maybe argue the lack thereof. I think the depth got better after they traded for Amari Cooper, and you saw it today. We're going to talk about Mac Hollins in a second, but the depth at tight end is really important, because of course, 12 personnel, that package hasn't taken off to the moon like a lot of Bills fans I think were hoping for. But having Knox in the role that you have him and being able to slot him back in as your tight end 1 in those 11 personnel packages is so important. And I also think that we go back to training camp talking about this, right? I'm not an offensive play caller. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I don't dial this stuff up. I don't get paid to do it. But it seems to me like it would make more sense when you have 2 of your best weapons on offense in Kincaid and Knox, finding a way to get them on the field, not only together in 12 like they do, but maybe getting them in, a handful of snaps in 11 on their own. It feels like they've leaned so heavily into Kincaid in that area that you're losing what I think Knox brings as a blocker in that setting, but then also as a downfield threat. I think at this point in his career, Dawson Knox is more of a downfield threat than Dalton Kincaid. Is that safe to say?
I think it's fair to say. I think that the Bills haven't unlocked that part of his game that he did such a good job of at Utah for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, in terms of overall what we've seen in Kincaid's career through 2 years or a year and a half, he hasn't been that field stretcher where Knox has made plays down the field. You can think of multiple instances of big plays down the field, but obviously a few years ago against the Chiefs, he was making play after play against one of their safeties. So he's shown that he can do that before. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the statement that you made.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I would have liked you to disagree with me because remember we had that one comment
I
that said
know,
they'd
but
like a little bit more pushback from Talbot on my takes and vice versa when you have a really off the wall crazy take. Speaking of off the wall, Mac Hollins and the feet movement that's come into Buffalo, I think it's hard to oversell how important his role has been at the money they paid him at the. I know we made light of the fact that it felt like at times they were expecting him to be wide receiver one, but when they needed him in big moments this season, he showed up and he's made some big plays. I mean, he led the all Bills receivers today with 86 yards. He led all receivers in the games, 4 catches, 86 yards on 4 targets. That play at the end of the first half where he makes the sliding grab and has the wherewithal to get out of bounds so the Bills can have a chance to get that field goal. Absolutely huge. And, he settled into a nice spot and he kind of talked about it in his locker after the game. It's like, all right, we know that there's all these other guys in the room. It's not going to be every week where you get your opportunities, but when it comes along, step up and make them in those moments. I thought it was better today from Curtis Samuel. I
oh,
thought
absolutely.
at times it felt like they were forcing the ball to him. He had 8 targets. He only ended up with 4 catches. Obviously, that interception, which almost went for a pick 6, and I think Samuel tripped him up, which I thought was a heady play on his end. But I still don't think that the Bills are using Samuel in a way that I expected them to. Like a lot of it, there was more on the boundary today, which is good. But when you have the heavy package in there, the jumbo package, you have Alec Anderson in, you have the double tight ends, you sent Curtis Samuel out wide. Why not run some play action there and send him on a post down the field? We have not seen that once. Like if you look at across their entire wide receiver room, the speed that Samuel has to me puts you in a situation to put the defense in a bind, especially if you get single coverage out there, if you have a heavy box or a loaded box.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the Bills, just because of the way defenses play them, they're just limiting in their playbook how many times they even try to take shots downfield. I get the looks that they get. I get that a lot of the time it's not there for them, but you're right. They're not using Samuel as that field stretcher, downfield threat. And it's something that he did very well with the Commanders. And, MVS, a whole nother matter on its own. You see him haul in 3 passes today for 100 plus yards and 2 touchdowns for the Saints. And the Saints have their own issues, and there's a reason why he's out there on the field for them. But the way that the Bills, the Bills never utilized him either or tried to get him to be that field stretcher consistently. They seem to be okay taking the underneath stuff, the dink and dunk. And don't get me wrong, it's obviously working. They're 8-2 for a reason. But I feel like you can't just eliminate that from the playbook altogether. You have to take a few shots here and there, especially when you think you can make those one-on-one matchups with the play action, with the jumbo package. Give him that shot. I thought it was a good performance for Samuel. First play going for about 14 yards, making some plays down the field. But Mac Hollins deserves a ton of praise for the way he played. Like you said, the awareness to make that 44-yard catch, slide on the ground to make it, get up and run out of bounds. Unbelievable play there. He had some other big plays. I want to say it was like a 2nd and long, and he moved the chains, getting like 19 yards on 2nd and 17, something around there. Just play after play, he's coming up for them when they're without their top 2 receivers. They eventually lose Kincaid. Great performance for the veteran receiver.
Speaking of great performances, Ryan Talbot had it going in the insider text line today. Top-notch performance, my friend. And you can sign up to become an insider right now by texting 716-528-6727 or go to joinsubtext.com/shoutbuffalobills. 2-week free trial, $3.99 a month after that. 24/7, 365 access to Ryan, myself. You get our thoughts throughout the week on game days. You can send questions in. Always get priority when we do like a mailbag question Q&A on the podcast. Shout text lines brought to you by Carrie C. Byer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give Carrie a call, 716-852-1234, or check out litrolaw.com. Where do you want to go next, Ryan?
Next up, oh boy, that's a great question. I want to it's not the most popular topic. I want to give a quick shout out to the special teams unit, Matt. Tyler Bass comes in here today after being the hero for the team, and he was automatic, 3 for 3 on field goals, 3 for 3 on extra points, including a 48-yard extra point, which is not very common. But due to a Spencer Brown penalty after a touchdown. He had to kick one long there. And then, Sam Martin, 2 punts, both land inside the 20, 54.5 yard average, and one down inside the 3. So big day for the special teams unit, minus obviously a fumble from Brandon Codrington early that the Bills were lucky to recover. But in terms of the kicker punter, outstanding performance that probably flew under the radar.
Yeah, definitely on the kicker specialist, but Codrington's got to get it. He's got to get it together. The decision making has been troublesome. That fumble there in that spot, if Indianapolis recovers it, it's a completely different game at that point. And we already talked about how many times the Bills' offense was giving Indianapolis chances to stay in the game. Codrington as well. And it's like, I get the idea of wanting to put the special teams defense or a coverage team in a bind by coming out and using your speed. But when you're that deep and they have that much time to get down the field and muddy up the waters like that, you just don't have as much time to operate. And the way that the new kickoff rule, guys come from so many different angles. This thing is still so new that I feel like you're much more, the possibility there of fumbling the football or turning it over is higher than it's ever been. And I think if I'm Matthew Smiley, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm sitting down Codrington this week and I'm saying, listen, if it's in the end zone, we love your speed. We love to see it in games. And maybe, you'll get a chance in the Chiefs game. But if it's in the end zone, stay there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, take the field position. I like that he's trying to make big plays. He has, to his credit, made some plays early on this season for the Bills, but bad things can happen when you turn the kicks out of the end zone. We saw one today that almost led to a major turnover. Colts actually came up with the ball, but the officials said that Alec Anderson had actually recovered it. So you're right. That could have been a total shift in the game. Everything was kind of going in the Colts' favor at that point, and momentum really would have shifted in their favor had they recovered that ball so deep in Buffalo's territory.
We talked a little bit about Curtis Samuel already, but we have a YouTube insider asking, what is going on with Samuel? Do you think he did enough this game? He seemed to disappear in the second half. I think part of it, Ryan, still is the injury that he's been dealing with. He was wearing, I think it was our good buddy, Banged Up Bills, who posted on social media. He was wearing that shoulder harness in the game today. So that's obviously not 100%. He's playing out there hurt a little bit. I thought they put him in a couple of different spots. Like early in the game, some of the routes that he was running, it's kind of thinking like, where's that been all year? And then, of course, he runs the same route later in the game and gets picked off, and right. Kenny Moore almost takes it to the house. But I thought overall this was a better plan with Samuel, especially in a game where they needed somebody to kind of step up. Shavers played in this game. Virgil played in this game. Neither of them had a single target in the entire game. It was a Khalil Shakir game, who, by the way, huge plays by him and Ty Johnson on third down on that 90-yard touchdown drive to close out the game. The James Cook touchdown as well. James Cook, by the way, shout out to him. He had a good game as well. Yeah,
he kind of flew under the radar. It wasn't until after the game that I looked at the box score and saw that he was over 80 yards rushing. He had some really good runs between the tackles where early on yards were hard to come by with that Colts defensive front. They were stout up front. I didn't like some of the play calls early by Joe Brady where they just kind of felt like they were running into a wall with Cook, with Ray Davis, and with Josh Allen on some of those design QB runs. But as the game wore on, Cook, showed that burst, pinballed off of a few defenders, just like Khalil Shakir did. And you mentioned Shakir, that 3rd and 8 play, catches the ball, bounces off of a guy, takes it downfield. And that actually reminds me of another player I want to give a quick shout out to, Ryan Vandemark. You lose your right tackle, Spencer Brown, for a short period of time on that long drive where the Bills seal the game. Vandemark comes in and holds his own at right tackle, which kudos to him. Last year we talked about his ability at left tackle, but he left some things to be desired at right tackle. I thought he played very well in that role. And on that catch by Shakir, he was just motoring downfield. He had 2 big blocks on that play in terms of the yards after the catch. But you're right, Ty Johnson with another big 3rd down play, kind of bobbled it at first, hauled it in, moved the chains. Even if the Bills had not scored any points on that, the way they took so much time off the clock, forced the Colts to burn all 3 timeouts, that was just such a huge drive where, despite being undermanned without 3 of your best weapons, the Bills found a way to move the ball and steal that win for their 8th win of the season.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too that when David Edwards left the game for a few snaps, Alec Anderson went in for him as that first guard off the bench, because that becomes interesting, because if Anderson then moves to left guard over the course of an entire game, now they have to come up with another person in their jumbo package. I wonder if that would be Vandermark that would move into that role, but he played really well. Saw him with his family after the game. Shout out to his mother, who is a proud Shout Insider text line subscriber. The whole family was meeting after the game. It was a cool scene there. So a really cool day for Ryan Vandermark. Couple more things I want to get to before we get out of here, kind of set things up for this week. Before I do, we're coming back to Turning Stone Resort Casino, and we're also coming back to Wingnuts this Saturday night, 6 days from today, November 16th. We'll be at Wingnuts, 6 p.m., the night before Bills Chiefs. Come out if you're in town. If you're local, we'll hang out. We'll eat wings. We'll talk Bills. We'll drink beers. It's going to be amazing. Come out. And also, Turning Stone, November 30th. What's up, everybody? Matt Parrino here with Ryan Talbot. We're the host of the Shout Buffalo Bills Football Podcast, and we have some big news. We're coming back to Turning Stone Resort Casino. That's right, New York Rec and Social Club, November 30th, the night before the Bills host the San Francisco 49ers. It is going to be a night of Bills football, talking, food, everything, Ryan. We cannot wait.
That's right, Matt. Nobody travels like the Bills Mafia. Come out and join us for the podcast and hang out with us after. The event is open to the public. Guests must be 18 years or older. Come out and let's get after it.
It's going to be a live edition of Shout, a Buffalo Bills Football Podcast. We're previewing Bills versus 49ers. See you then. All right, that's going to be a great time at Turning Stone Resort Casino on November 30th. Get it in the calendar. We hope to see as many people out there as possible. We're going to have a fun time on that Saturday night. All right, Ryan, Josh Allen, let's spend a minute here before we get into the look ahead. This was a really like a slog of a game. I mean, at times where you look at the completion percentage, it's under 50% or hovering around 50%. And you're like, man, there's drops, there's misreads, there's, trying to force it. Like there at times it just didn't feel clean. And then we talked about it already, the missed Dalton Kincaid pass on the right sideline. That's a pass that in a game against the Chiefs coming up next week, you need to have those plays. And it just felt like at times he was very erratic. It felt like he wasn't comfortable at times going through his reads, missing guys, staying on his reads for too long. What do you attribute that to? And how much does that put the Bills in a bind over the next month if that's the version of Josh Allen that you get, all while recognizing he comes out here and turns the clock back with the way that he ran the ball on a couple of occasions, the touchdown, the run from his own goal line. It was a vintage Josh Allen rushing performance. But what do you make of him as a passer in this game?
Yeah, so first of all, you just mentioned the running, though. 330 total yards of offense. So you have to keep that in mind. Down several key contributors, but I thought that at times he was just off. Some of that had to do, I feel like the offensive line was getting pushed around early on at times. There were some O-line penalties that hurt the team today. I think some of it goes on the offensive line. Allen, though, had some bad misses. That the throw to Kincaid, I mean, he had enough time to kind of put a little air under it. Kincaid was running open. That should have been a touchdown, an easy touchdown at that. So there's that. Gus Bradley deserves a little bit of credit, the defensive coordinator for the Colts, on that 4th and 3 play where the Bills were very aggressive going for it. They looked like they were going to blitz, and it tricked Josh Allen. Allen fired the ball quickly, and they had dropped into coverage, and they were able to break it away from Curtis Samuel very quickly. But there were some bad plays overall. That first interception, I know that he was trying to get it to Khalil Shakir, but there was just not enough air on that ball. It just was too easy of an interception. It's like he didn't see the defender there. The second interception, I get it. You could have had Curtis Samuel break off his route, come toward the ball a little bit, but it just felt like Kenny Moore was kind of sitting on plays like that today, waiting for that opportunity. So a missed opportunity there too. So an up and down roller coaster of a game for him. But when they needed him most on that long drive in the fourth quarter, when you have, Ryan Vandermark in at right tackle, you've had some penalties back you up. Allen takes off and runs for a huge gain to keep the drive alive. One of the biggest plays of that drive. And then he made those clutch throws to Shakir and to Ty Johnson. He helped them again move the chains with a big stiff arm on the Colts defender that punched him in the head about 5 times on a QB sneak. So there were some bad moments. Absolutely. The interceptions come to mind first and foremost. But when you go up over 330 yards in a game where you needed him to be the old Josh Allen, it's hard to deny that he did more than enough to get the job done today.
And you're going to go through periods in a season. Like there's been some really efficient play from Josh Allen over the course of this year. And I think that you're going to run through some periods where it's not going as well and trying to find answers when it's not going well on a day like this. Listen, I think after 10 games, you could still make the argument the Bills' 8 wins are against a collection of teams that, none of them are striking fear into anybody's heart in the NFL. I mean, the real tests begin, and the test that they had earlier in the season against the Baltimore Ravens and to a lesser extent the Houston Texans, they didn't pass those tests. And I think they're going to need Josh Allen playing at, the level that they need him to be at. But I think a game like this, he responds historically after games like this when he puts the ball in jeopardy. You go back over the course of his career all the way back to the early games. Or you remember that Patriots game where he had the 4 interceptions, and I think he went on some kind of crazy streak after that where he only had 1 or 2 interceptions over his next 9 or 10 games or whatever it ended up being. But those are the kinds of things that you've grown to rely on when it comes to Josh Allen, is making mistakes, but fixing it in the short term. So it'll be interesting to see what version of Josh Allen comes out at home next week against the Kansas City Chiefs, and which I'd argue is the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, and historically, Allen has risen to the occasion against that Chiefs defense, but they will certainly pose some problems. It'll obviously be his performance will be dependent on who he has available to him. Amari Cooper was listed as questionable going into this game, and then with the elevations on Saturday, he had a pretty good feeling that he was not going to play in this one, and then confirmed a little bit before inactives came out. If he's good to go in that matchup, that's a big boost for this offense. We still don't know a ton about Keon Coleman in terms of, is that a 1-game absence? Are they going to hold him out until after the bye? And then obviously Kincaid too. So it hurts that there so many key contributors are down on offense, but I feel like they could still lean on the run game against the Chiefs. You still have Shakir who's making plays. We talked about Knox, Curtis Samuel stepping up, Matt Collins. That's not the ideal lineup that you want against this Colts team, who in their own regard have been struggling, should have lost today, but blocked a field goal as time expired to hold on against Denver. They found ways to be undefeated coming into this game against the Bills, but this is also another team that has not been knocking the doors off of anyone. So I think the Bills can be right in this game to the end, regardless of who's available and who's not. But if they can get some of those weapons available for the game, it'll be a big boost for Buffalo.
If you want a big boost for game day next Sunday, head over to Tops. Get ready for Slider Sunday your way with King's Hawaiian at Tops. Every Sunday is an opportunity to enjoy delicious sliders made your way, and now you can win big while doing it. Vote for your favorite slider weekly for a chance to win tickets to the big game. Grab your favorite King's Hawaiians product from Tops and craft the ultimate sliders to make your Sunday even more special. Visit topsmarkets.com/slidersunday today. All right, Ryan. That'll do it for this one. We'll be back this week. Huge week on deck. Chiefs week. See you then. Don't forget, Wingnuts next Saturday night. Get it in your calendar. I'll have an event made. I'll put it in the description on all of our podcasts this week. We can't wait. Take care.